Hello, and welcome back to the Picture Show. We are your hosts. My name is Bryn.
And I'm Noah. And we're going to talk about the holdovers and poor things today in this episode. Bryn, do you have one you would like to start with?
I actually would love to start with the holdovers because I just, again, recently watched this.
All right. Give us a little rundown on the holdovers. What's the holdovers all about, Bryn?
The Holdovers is this wonderful, almost nostalgic sort of film about some kids at a private school who are getting stuck at the school over Christmas because of one reason or another. They're not able to be with their families. And then this kind of teacher that nobody's a fan of is stuck watching them. And partway into the film, a bunch of the boys get to go off and do something else, and the teacher is really just stuck with this one sort of labeled troublemaker student. Um, so it's them and then also the chef that works at the school just kind of trying to figure out how to get through this break together. And it's wonderfully funny, but it also touches on some tough subjects at the same time, and also kind of notes on a period in America that was a little bit tougher for more recent generation.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on it already. This is like a super nostalgic film. It takes place in the early 1970s, and they go to great lengths to recreate the period, not only with the sets and the costumes and all of that, but just the look of the film is really, really like lovely and tactile. They shot it on digital, but it just feels like film. It just has this like warm, lovely early 70s earthy quality to it that is just so nice. Yeah, and it's just extraordinarily pleasant. Like it's a really great movie, and it's so easy to love because you have Paul Giamatti giving one of his best, most he's caustic and he's funny. It's one of his best performances ever. It just plays exactly into his talents as an actor. You have a young Dominic Sessa in his first film role, and he is so fun to watch in this film. Just totally evokes the 70s in his look and just the way he talks. It's just crazy how he was able to do that in his first role. And you have the lovely Davine Joy Randolph as Mary, the cook of the school. And yeah, it's just one of those movies where a couple people are forced into proximity and learn to love each other. Really easy to love.
Easily. I think that this is going to become a yearly Christmas watch. It's
Oh,
definitely up there
absolutely.
with my favorite holiday films now. I absolutely fell in love with the look of the movie as far as
Hmm.
like that kind of old timey feel.
It's like
Um,
speckly and
yeah, and it was really funny because Cal and I watched it together, and they were like, "Is this movie old?" And I was like, "No, it came out last year." I didn't tell them anything about it going into it, and so just like starting right off the bat, it just felt you felt that kind of nostalgia for something that you've never lived through, and that was
yeah.
so cool. It made me think very much of Dead Poet Society, which is also one of my favorites.
Hmm.
And it really does, it puts you in that kind of almost like dark academia type feel, but it just is very just rooted in nostalgia and memory, and that's kind of a unique feeling because we
Yeah.
weren't alive then.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that I think makes this film work so well is it gives every performance the time to sort of really find itself. So like we don't get into the main meat of the story, the holding over as it were for like 20 to 30 minutes maybe, but it uses all that time to really set up who these people are up to this point, and like in a way that's really believable, in a way that makes everyone feel really distinct. So the way that they all come together and grow over the course of this just feels all the more real and earned. And it's just, yeah, you just love these relationships and you want to feel like a part of it. Like it's really, really cool. I just love that they
Absolutely.
take the time.
Yes. Yeah. But it doesn't also feel like they take too much time with it. Like it
Mm-mm.
feels like everybody gets just the right amount of introduction before you really kind of get into it.
Paul Giamatti, this plays right into his strengths as an actor. He's such a gifted comedian, and he plays this portly, pudgy little man who hates the world and has this. It seems like he has one ailment after another. Like every other scene, he's like, "Also, this is wrong with me, and also this is wrong with me," and we slowly start to understand why this man is the way he is. You have Divine Joy Randolph as Mary, who has just one of the most heartbreaking backstories here, and she really shines in this film. Uh, Her character I found so lived in. I found it. I mean, she every piece of food she really cooked. She had a huge hand in finding all of the wardrobe of this character, and you can just see Davine really just living in this role as Mary and bringing so much life into it. Like so much sensitivity. In particular, whenever I think of her in this film, I see her in this great purple sweater she has. It's the perfect color on her, and just such a beautiful color on film. Also, a lot of great cigarette smoking in this movie. Don't smoke, kids, but it just looks so good in this movie the way she smokes cigarettes. Yeah, just utter cinema every time she's on screen.
Yeah, I loved her. She really, I mean, watching it, you just felt like you were grieving with this mother. And,
Hmm.
um, it showed such a realistic side of grief to
Hmm.
where a lot of you just wants to keep going in what your day to day looks like. But then you just hit these points where, I mean, even at the Christmas party, like, we find her in the kitchen and she's, breaking down, and it
That's one
just
of the
really
best
shows
scenes.
you. Yes, but it just shows you like the different ways that grief will catch up to you at different points, and just that it doesn't always look the same. And I just really felt with her that whole time.
Yeah, even though we don't follow her the whole time, every moment she has just feels so well done, so fulfilling.
Mm.
There's a great, like, it's maybe just 30 seconds, no dialogue. It's a push into her face. She's been drinking at this party, and you see her sort of drift through memories and emotions and alcohol, sort of all at once, and just the journey she takes you in those 30 seconds alone is something I don't think a lot of actors are capable of. I maybe they are, but like it's just she really brings you in. Like she really like invites you to sort of bring yourself to those moments. And so she really stands out when she's alone, but I also think she has this incredible gift as a scene partner where like I think she gives others a lot to work with. Some of my favorite scenes in this film are just people watching TV together. And like, it's a huge part of the way they all build their relationship. And you just see that this woman is so intuitive and she just has a lot to give. And at the beginning of this film, she doesn't really have anyone to give it to. And
Yeah,
she's just such a standout.
I love that, like, you get to see kind of her maternal instinct kind of throughout it. It's
Hmm.
like you said, she doesn't really have anybody anymore, and so over the course of their time together, she finds ways to still be a mother and still take care of other people around her, and I
Yeah.
just loved that. And it was so, like, perfectly done to the intensity that
Hmm.
really made you feel with her. And I think other actors are capable of playing roles like that, but it's it's it strays from believability, and it kind of teeters on, can you pull the empathy from the audience, like what actually makes people feel like they are with this character grieving with this mother, like what makes people feel that. And she did exactly that, and it was just such a beautiful just portrayal of what somebody would actually be going through in that
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah. Whatever it is, Davine has it.
She's
She
got
found it. She's got it. She's got it.
it.
Yeah, she's such a standout in this film. I mean, and it's hard to stand out when you really only have three principal actors and everyone is really good. Like everyone's bringing their A game.
Yeah.
Dominic Sessa in his first role has some of the best lines, some of the funniest moments. There's a part where he breaks a bone, and we're in the car with the teacher taking it, and just every line in that car he is nailing. It is just so funny.
He's like, why did you let me do this? Paul's like, what?
It's like I was trying to catch up to you.
You're in charge of me. It was just great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's hard to pick out standout scenes in this film because it really is everything just feels of a piece. Like it is just a huge warm blanket of a movie.
Yeah.
Despite being also really stark and really cold. But yeah, it's just very naturalistic in a way that's so lovely. Paul Giamatti, we got to talk about Paul.
My favorite thing about this character is how vehemently he stands up for everybody around him, especially like the women that he's around. Like he is so adamant on defending everyone's character and the reason that they should be treated like a human. Like he just does it, his whole focus is on other people, and it really kind of like helps you kind of humanize him in a way that like you have all these students who hate him, you have all these teachers who don't really like him, the headmaster doesn't like him, like people are finding reasons to avoid this guy, but you really get down to the heart of it and he is just there for other people and he just wants to make this difference. And like one of my favorite scenes is when they're all sitting at the table and one of the kids starts to badmouth Mary for not cooking very well, and like she should still be able to do
and her food looks so good.
It looks so good. I want it. Good. I know. But then he is so fast to be like, hey, shut the fuck up. She's a great person and she's going through a lot right now. How about sit down and shut up? Like, it's just, that was one of my favorite scenes. Like, the, like, explosion that he has, and then he kind of contains himself, and then later she's like, I heard you. And, like, you can tell that, like, she just feels a little bit of solidarity on the inside because he did that for her.
Oh yeah, that's a huge moment between them. I love that. Yeah, you're totally right. He is there for other people, but he has something in him where he just can't not be an asshole. Like he wants to care and connect with people, but it's just been so hard for him because like he can't turn it off. He's got this caustic wit that he just cannot suppress, like for any reason. Yeah, but when he's being an asshole, I mean, in a film of great lines, Paul Giamatti has all the best ones. All the best ones.
Yeah.
Calling people troglodytes. Troglodytes gets this movie 5 stars on its own. I love that word. Reprobates.
I am dying to call somebody penis cancer in human form. I want nothing more than to use that line on somebody in a very serious situation. That's all I want.
Paul Giamatti is just throwing straight gas, no curveball, no changeup. This whole movie.
I loved him. Another thing that was just kind of like ironic about it, this has not really anything to do with anything, but the fact that he's like an ancient history teacher, and Cal just went through a whole ancient history class on like warfare and all this stuff, and so like all of the references that he was throwing about like ancient Greece and all that stuff, it was just funny because I actually was like picking up on that.
Yeah, like, loving it.
We were just cracking up. Oh my god, it was hilarious.
Yeah, his love of history is really contagious. Just the way he contextualizes it in a certain scene of the film with the young kid. Angus Tully is the kid's name. When he's with Angus, he brings him to a museum in Boston, and it's just so sweet. It's maybe Paul's best scene in the film. The way he explains everything and just the way everything connects to the present. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate it. You just got to watch the movie.
I know. Well, and it's just fun because, you know, you get to the end of that scene and it comes down to like history is all the same. Like it's all just, you know, sex and violence and people being humans, and Angus gets to the end of that whole spiel and he's like, well, if you would have just said it like that in the first place, I would have paid a lot more attention in class. Like it's just like you just, you know, even for the time that this was set in, you just really can relate. Like kids are kids. They're all the
Yeah.
same.
Just goes so like some of these things like they may seem apparent to one person, but you should always articulate these things, even if it might seem apparent, because you just don't know what people are gonna assume or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any particular standout scenes for you in a movie filled with great ones?
I know, they're all so great. One of my favorite scenes is when they're talking about when they're in the little liquor store and they're kind of like
Mm.
talking about what he did or didn't do, and he's at the end of it, he's like, "Yeah, I hit him with my car." And they go up to like the counter, and the attendant is just like, he's
What?
just, he's like, "I don't know what I just heard, but that was something." But I loved that scene. Just like all of those kind of like little quippy moments where like Angus is like trying to get under his skin a little bit, and then he just like fires back with something that's just out of pocket and hilarious. Like you're never expecting it every time. Like when
Yeah,
they're
all the
walking through the
dialogue.
little bookstore area, and
I
Angus is
love
like,
that
"You've
outdoor
never."
bookstore. I want to go there so
Yeah,
bad.
me too. I'm like, "Where is that?" And Angus is like, "You've never had sex before, have you?" And he's like, the things I
Candy
could tell
cane.
you," and
He's
yeah.
never had candy cane before.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, the things I could tell you would make your toes curl," and he just keeps screaming that like out
That's
in
a
the
very
open.
provocative thing to say to your student, Paul. Let's be careful.
But it was stuff like that that just you couldn't stop laughing. It was just so good.
There's a great like semi chase sequence between the student Angus Tully and Paul Hunnam, the teacher, where Angus will just sort of like he's sort of like a basset hound. He'll wait for you to get close enough to keep going, you know? He's just
Yeah.
like, I'm still running away, but I'm gonna be an asshole about it, and it's so good. It's really hard to pick out a full scene, but there's so many little moments that are
Mm-hmm.
just so meaningful as a part of the fabric of this film. I
Yeah.
think one of the most undersung aspects of Paul Giamatti as an actor, and one of my favorite parts of the film, is his physicality and what he brings to like the body of a character, and he really plays up like the stiffness, the oldness here. And there's a scene where he's walking outside alone in the snow and he finds a discarded football, and what he does with that football is absolute cinema. Kino, just absolute film perfection.
I cackled
Great
when that
physicality.
happened. It was so good. And he just like he really does play up this like old curmudgeon teacher that's just very stagnant in his life, and you can tell he's been doing the same thing every single day for the last 20 plus years, and you really get that from him. And during that chase scene when he's trying to catch up to Angus, I was worried that he was going to have a heart attack. Like it's just like the way he plays
The
up.
wheezing, you feel it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, I'm tired just watching this.
There's so many more good bits that
Mm-hmm.
surround that central character that I
Yeah.
don't want to give away. Some of the greatest pleasures in the film are these sort of light jokes that you're like just a lot of running jokes with him, a lot of great bits um that I just can't spoil.
And a lot of them are like subtle to the point where if you're not keyed into what he's saying, you're probably going to miss out on the joke, cuz like we talked about, like he ties a lot of his speech into ancient history, and so like if you're
Hmm.
not really like paying attention, you're
You might
probably
not
going to
pick
miss
it up.
it. Yeah.
That's one of the strengths of the film, though, is that you can miss all these things, but you're going to want to watch this movie again. Like I can't
Absolutely.
imagine most people watching this and not loving it. Like it's extraordinarily easy to love and to watch
Yeah.
over and over again. I've probably
Yeah.
watched it like 5 times. It's currently streaming on Peacock, and I
Yeah.
just can't get enough of it.
It was so good. And like I said, like this is going to end up in the rotation of my Christmas movies every year, cuz it is that good. It's something that you really can watch over and over again, and you still feel like you're in it. And um I don't know, it's just so like you wanted to stay in it. And in the beginning when we find out that Mary's son has passed away, and you see all these people going through these difficult things, like I'm sitting there wondering how this is going to turn out to be dramedy, you know, like I'm wondering where the humor is actually going to fit into this, but they did such a good job of actually making it like it's enjoyable to be in, and like they still touch on the tough things, and like you
Hmm.
still feel for these characters, but you're laughing the whole time.
Yeah, like the jokes are jokes, but they also feel like something a real person would say at a
Absolutely.
at a real time. You know, it doesn't sound like a joke that someone set up and did the punchline to. It's really nice. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Was there anything that you didn't care for?
You know, the first time I saw this movie, I don't know what I was expecting, but like I felt like maybe it was a little thin, a little something. But
Mm,
as I've returned to it, like I really struggle to find things not to like about it, I guess. It's just not anything that bowls you over. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's just this it's an excellent new addition to the Christmas movie canon. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, maybe that first bit of it does drag on, but I think what it gives you in character for where we go at the rest of the film, it's all worth it.
Yeah, because it really does set you up for who these people are, and you really get
Yeah.
to know them very well. Even if the beginning is like a little bit dry, you just really get a feel for these people and who they are and kind of what they've
Hmm.
been through.
Yeah.
Um, and
How about
I,
you?
you know, I really struggled to find anything to not like about this. I loved it start to finish. I
It's just
honestly,
so pleasant.
it is so pleasant. I could have used more Mary, honestly. Like
Yeah,
I
I
could
guess
have used more of
there
her.
it is. That's the thing. That
Yeah,
there's the flaw. She could have been like you could have given her an extra 40 scenes. I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I can tell you the exact scene that I would replace with something more of her.
Well, let's
Uh,
do it, please. That sounds interesting.
the scene where they're in the diner and he pisses off those two guys at the pinball machine.
Mm.
Honestly, like it was a fine scene, and like we had to meet the other teacher somehow, but I just the scene didn't really do anything for me. I didn't really feel like it progressed anything that much. I could have used more Mary there. Like I could have
Yeah.
had something with her instead. So
Yeah, and I don't even know if I'd take anything out of the movie. I think I would just add more Dave Joy Randolph.
yes, I
Just
loved
adding
her.
more. Give me a 3-hour cut, director's cut. I need all
I
those
just
deleted Davine scenes back
yeah,
in.
yes, I just need a movie with her playing every single character, and then I'll be happy. Whole movie is just her.
All right. Well, if we don't have a lot of complaints, The Holdovers is up for a couple of Oscars.
It
I
sure
think the
is.
first one I want to address because we
Because it's
touched on
happening.
it. We touched on this. Well, okay, yeah. Should we start there? The one that's definitely happening. Dave
Yes.
Joy Randolph, congratulations on your Oscar. As of 2/25, when we're recording this, you haven't won it yet, but you are going to. We
You are
love you,
well on
Davine.
your way. Yes. You got this, girl.
I
Um,
there's really not another performance in that category that I even really like.
no.
I
Mm-mm.
just yeah, Davine would win in
Hands
in
down. Yeah.
almost any year she'd be up for it.
Yeah. No kidding.
Um Paul Giamatti, we did talk about this last time. He's probably the only person that stands a chance of beating Cillian Murphy.
I would agree.
And I was feeling more confident the last time we talked about that. But as time goes on, I love Paul Giamatti in this movie. It if he does win, it'll be the best win in that category in almost 10 years. Either way, we're getting a great winner. Man, Killian, it is starting to feel correct and inevitable. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel more inevitable than anything. I mean, you just there is so much surrounding his performance, and like I just feel like audience pick, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like
Hmm.
it's probably inevitably going to be him, but I would be so happy to see Paul get that. I just he did such a
He's
good job.
really yeah. It's hard to because Killian is so good. I don't want to
I
take away
know.
from that.
No,
Like
no, no, no.
it's such a performance that bowls you over. But Paul Giamatti is really hitting the whole spectrum of human emotion here. He's bringing you along with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you just have the two perfect actors in perfect roles for them that just maximize their skill sets.
Yep.
It's a great race. I'm gonna be happy either way.
I can't wait. And honestly, I never would have expected to see the blue man from Big Fat Liar up for an Oscar. But
You know,
I'm
it's
happy about it.
crazy that he's only been up for one before. He's only ever been nominated once before. Best Supporting Actor for a movie called Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe.
Yep.
But it's just crazy. He was so good in Sideways from the same director as The
Mm.
Holdovers, where he plays a wine freak. Just another film where he's just given all the best lines. To this day, he has me not drinking Merlot because it's just so funny that he won't drink Merlot. But this is, I think, this is sort of a crown jewel in his filmography, right up there with Blue Guy, just
Right
one
up
step
there,
below.
neck and neck. Yeah,
I mean, if
right.
they had
It's so
turned him
close.
blue in this movie, I would have lost my mind. I would have lost my mind. That's
That would have put it at Best Picture.
yeah, peak
Turn him blue.
crossover right there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what though? At the same time, his character in this has enough wrong with him. If he was blue too, you know what? Now that we're talking about Paul Giamatti being blue, let's get him in the next Avatar. I know they're filming it.
Yes.
Get him in the
Yeah.
next
I
Avatar,
mean,
please. James Cameron, call him up.
he looks good in blue. You're already halfway there. You know that he
Hmm.
can do it. So
And then the rest of this movie's Oscar nominations, it's got a total of 5. It's also up for Best Picture of the Year, well-deserved nomination. We've got an original screenplay nomination. That one, it's got a shot at.
I agree. I agree. I actually really liked the screenplay in this. So many good lines. So
Hmm.
many lines that hit home, but also just the delivery too. But I was really, really happy with the script.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's from a first-time screenwriter. Let me see real quick because I might want to put my foot in my mouth here. Um, But I'm pretty sure that this is his first feature-length script. Either way, he did a great job with it. I've got my money on a different film in that category, but only
Yeah.
because Anatomy of a Fall is my favorite movie of the year, and I will hold on to that until it doesn't happen, but I'm hoping it does. And then it's also nominated for editing. You know, you
Mhm.
don't really notice the editing too much, in my opinion, but that is
But
a
that can be a
testament
good
to its
thing.
quality. Exactly.
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 Like we were talking about last time with Oppenheimer and not noticing like the difference in timelines in a bad way. I feel like
Mhm.
if you can not notice, not be able to pick out the editing in a film, it did a great job. It hit its mark. They did exactly what they were supposed to. Like
Yeah.
you did great. Gold star, you know?
Yeah, beautifully, beautifully told story.
Yeah.
Anything more
I
to say
really
on the
like it.
holdovers, Bryn?
No, just I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, go see it. Go watch it. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray. It's streaming on Peacock. You have no reason not to see it.
It will make your heart happy. I'm just saying.
All right. Well, our other topic of discussion today is a similarly great movie, although I don't know if it's similarly pleasant. Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Poor Things, starring Emma Stone. Um, I guess I can give the rundown for this one.
Yeah.
We're in sort of a steampunky fantasy late Victorian era England, where a horrifying Willem Dafoe finds a recently deceased pregnant woman, and takes the brain of the baby inside her and puts it in the body to give it a shot at life. And we follow the life that baby brain leads. Without going into too many spoilers yet, I guess that's a good rundown of it.
Yeah.
Man, where do you start with Poor Things, Bryn?
I want to start with the script.
Oh yeah.
I I loved the script in this movie. It just tickled my script bone. It was so good. I the development of her language throughout the movie was my
Hmm.
favorite part. She just it was so good. I loved it. It was so well written.
Well
What really
structured, great lines.
I talk about great lines. I mean, this movie is chock full of them from every character too. Mark Ruffalo has some really great stuff.
This is maybe
Um,
my favorite Mark Ruffalo performance. I love him the
yes,
most.
yes, he was so good. My favorite scene of his is like when they're in the jail cell and he's just unhinged. He's losing his mind. He just, yeah, it was great, start to finish.
My favorite Mark Ruffalo scene, I gotta say, his introduction scene is is salacious. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's seedy and it's just delicious. I loved it. It's
It was,
creepy. It's awesome.
yeah, you feel a little like greasy watching it
Yeah,
happen
in a
because you're
good
like,
way. Grease is
yeah,
good.
Grease is good from his character, but you know, you're basically watching him like hit on this child, and you're like, I don't like it. But the way that like how confident she is and the way she holds her own in
Hmm.
those scenes, just you gotta love it, and you want her to go with him.
Should we cover anyone else before we just jump straight into Emma Stone and that main character?
Willem Dafoe.
Willem
Are you
Dafoe,
kidding me?
to do what he does in this film behind pounds and pounds of makeup, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just so strong. I mean, Willem Dafoe is like an instant ticket buy for me, anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
he's so good as a character who humbly goes by God.
I don't
Just
know. I see his name on a cast list and I immediately know that I'm not going to be disappointed. Like he takes every role and puts it at 100%. Like he just does such a good job. And like his character is pretty gross if we're
oh
just
yeah,
kind of being plain about it. Like
I
his
don't know
character is
if
pretty
there's a
gross.
character in this that isn't just disgusting and awful. It's one of the best
Yeah.
parts of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very like jarring, but
I
just
think, yeah,
like
a lot of the most absurd elements of this film are illustrated through his character. And
mhm.
just a simple, this is not a spoiler at all, but he's just randomly burping out bubbles. Like he'll tip his head back and just let out the most guttural sound you've ever heard for like 10 full seconds and then just pop out a bubble, and it's awesome. I don't know what that was. I have no analysis or idea what that meant. I just know it was awesome.
No,
I
and
loved it.
like just her insane clapping after he does it every time. It's just
Oh
so
yeah, she loves it.
she loves it, and I love it. He takes this role of like this character is really gross, just really nasty, but he makes it so lovable. Like you're just like, oh yeah, yeah, I can get why you would just slice a person open. That makes sense. You should do it more.
There's another character called Candles, short for Mick Candles, and he's a huge part of our entrance into this world
Mm-hmm.
because he is God's not disciple but student, I guess, his
Mm-hmm.
intern or whatever, and God sort of gives him his approval to marry Bella, the Emma Stone character. He's a really interesting character because he's not as outgoing. He's not as much there to impress his will upon everyone. Um, every different character really gives Bella a different sort of stimulus to respond to, and their relationship in the film is one of the more interesting ones because once you know who she is as a character, it's like, what are you seeing here? And I think it comes
Yeah,
what purpose he serves.
yeah. Well, and I love his approach to Bella in the beginning. Like he's basically
Mhm.
tasked with just watching her. And he doesn't necessarily face anything that she does with judgment. Like there might be a little shock there because she does some pretty surprising things, but he doesn't really face it with so much judgment as he faces it with curiosity and just kind of bewilderment. Like this is a creature. Like this is a person worth studying, and I want to understand this. And I think that's kind of where he develops that love for her is just like in curiosity, and so you don't feel as like greasy watching that because you're just like
Yeah,
he
it's
actually
maybe the most pure approach to her
yes,
out of anyone.
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I loved their relationship because I think it was innocent in a way of like so much curiosity, so much wonderment, and like he was so encouraging of her to learn more, but he also like actually cared for her safety. And again, he was a very like shy and more reserved character, but he just added that sense of like pure, like, almost innocence
Yeah.
to her learning.
Yeah. I think we need to just jump into the meat of this movie
Mhm.
that is Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone. So, yeah, she has this extraordinarily difficult task of not only progressing as a human, but progressing as a character. So it's two different arcs, at least to me. Um, and we were talking about physicality. This role, there's no part of your mind or body that is not engaged by this. Um, yeah, so she starts out as this baby brain in a human body, and she's learning to move her body in a body that already knows how to move, which is a really interesting sort of physical exercise, I guess.
Mhm.
And we spend a lot of the early part of the film as she's growing up, watching her learn how every part of her works. And I guess we just need to kind of get in there and say a huge part of this movie is Bella's discovery of her own sexuality and her fascination with it, with her body and other people's bodies.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you cannot take Poor Things in and of itself, I think, as a full, complete feminist text. I don't think this is like we are really focused on feminine sexuality a lot
Mhm.
here, and it is a male director, a male writer. You can talk about that all you want. It's not going to be every girl's journey, but it is Bella's, and I think it's
Mhm.
really fascinating to watch her sort of grow and find her own interests in herself and in the world without any of the fear or shame that a lot of us are conditioned to have. And so I think in that respect, it is a really fascinating movie that sort of demands engagement.
Absolutely. It honestly, it was such a refreshing look at being a woman because she's doing all of these things. She's exploring her sexuality. She is setting boundaries without even realizing it. She just doesn't want to do something, she's not going to do it. She wants to do something, she's going to go do it. It was so refreshing because, you know, growing up in this world, like, never once would that cross my mind without, considering somebody else in the process or feeling shame, acting on shame. And I think that in that way, it is a very, like, feminist movement there, in just the way
Hmm.
of, like, this person, like, out of all of the things that she has to consider, her autonomy is not one of those things. She just will or she just won't, and it's based on what she
Hmm.
wants to do. And I love the ownership and the confidence without her even realizing that. Like, it is just her pursuing her own life, and I think that that is so powerful for women to see.
Yeah, a majority of the conflict of this movie is people trying to like express their ownership of her. So you have this woman who's sort of like her own mother, her own daughter, just like completely her own
Hmm.
thing, in a way no one else has been. And from the very start, you have God trying to keep her within the walls where she's safe. You have sort of McCandles, the man she's promised off to. So I think when Mark Ruffalo comes in, he's like a lawyer or something. I don't really remember. But when he comes into it, he goes to Bella's room because he's like, I gotta see what this is all about. I gotta see this freak they got locked up in here. And their first interaction is highly charged. And Bella's just starting to figure all this out, and with God trying to keep her in these walls, when you try to keep these secrets from people, it makes things way more attractive. So I think
Hmm.
when this guy comes in and he's willing to be seedy and disgusting, like straight up front,
Hmm.
and I mean, she is definitely interested in that. I don't think she has the full context of what all of it could mean.
Hmm.
But like you can easily see how she would want to run off here, and that's exactly what they do. And I think once her and Mark Ruffalo run off, the movie just sort of blows wide open, and
Hmm.
it becomes way more surreal.
Hmm.
They go on this little globe trotting cruise, and the sets that we find, like, we're in Lisbon, but I don't know what Lisbon they went to, because it feels like an alien world, and it
It
is like, I don't
does.
know how they built this place because it feels so real.
It feels like, do you remember those I Spy computer games as a kid?
Yes.
That's what that feels like
Yes.
to me. And I
The
felt like
level
I was
of
in it.
detail.
Yes, but it was so pretty to look at. It was so just like you almost want to explore this world with her because, like, where are you? I want to be there. Like, I want to see the world, and like it's just I loved the set design.
Yeah, everything just feels so twisted, but of a piece. Like they do such a good job world building here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even when she's in France and she's kind of like in the brothel, like it feels magical for a brothel. Like, how do you do that? But it's just so well done.
I loved the brothel scene because, I mean, with everyone trying to sort of take from Bella, um, the fact that she's able to kind of do things on her own terms
Mm-hmm.
here is so fascinating to watch, and just the way that she sort of, I don't know what word I'm searching for there. The way she deals with her prostitution is not a way I think most people would. And those are some of the most interesting scenes of the movie, at
Oh
least from
yeah.
like the psychology of all the people that come see her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just the fact that she's taking ownership of herself there. I love that it doesn't demonize sex work at all either.
Yeah.
It's very humanizing of that type of work.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that just adds to like the surprise factor for a lot of women watching it is because like, sex work is so frowned upon. It is so shamed
Hmm.
and for what? And she takes like this academic spin on it and like you kind of see these like brief interactions turn into like very human connection by the end of it because she actually ends up getting to know these people and she ends up getting them to open up about their lives, and it's just like the way that she grows through just that experience in more ways than just sexually or boundary setting. Like she actually learns how to form human connections through this experience, which is so unusual for that kind of setting, and I was so just impressed by that.
Yeah, she really, she falls in love with a fellow prostitute at the brothel, and I just love that the movie lets her sort of have all of her loves, because
Mm-hmm.
she's never existed in a world where like monogamy was pushed on her,
Mm-hmm.
or any of these things. Like she doesn't really, um, I think, fully grasp those concepts because they weren't really placed in her mind at a young age, and she has grown so rapidly that she has nowhere to go but down her own path in this
Mm-hmm.
film. There's just nothing like it. There is nothing like this film.
Mm-mm.
And along with everything we said, the movie is a comedy through and through. It is laugh out loud funny all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think that everything you just said just adds to how wonderful the script was because kind of going back to what you first mentioned, like it normalizes everything. Like it
Hmm.
normalizes it to the point where it just graces over that fact. Like, yes, she was with all of these men and then she fell in love with this woman, but we don't have to we don't have to make that a blatant point. Like it just is normal.
Yeah, that's just her life.
In the same vein that sex work is normalized and relationships, non-typical relationships are normalized, and I think that it was so subtly done in that way, and I just loved the script for that. But the whole time you're
Yeah.
laughing, it's so funny. It's just so This was one of my favorite scripts.
Yeah, the way Mark Ruffalo kind of goes crazy because his grip on Bella is threatened by her sexual relationships with other people. Um, I think where the first crack in that armor comes from is when they're on their world trotting cruise before they've arrived in London. They find some worldly patrons on the boat that she sort of ingratiates herself with, the great German actress Hannah Shagula and Gerard Carmichael, who is her traveling companion. They sort of introduce her to like philosophical novels and just like general like high-minded conversation, and that's when I think her progression really starts to go at a more exponential rate.
Mm-hmm. And
The world kind of blows open, and once that door is open, you can't close it again. And Mark Ruffalo hates that.
yeah.
He hates it.
Well, and I think that that's something that women are very familiar with because for a lot of society, intelligence is threatening. And
Mm.
so I think that there's a lot of relatability there that like she's reading books now, you can't stop her. Like she's gonna have conversations, you can't control that. And just watching how much he loses his mind over that is just really fun. It feels
Yeah,
very in your face, and I love it.
everyone fears so much not having Bella in their orbit, like, and they don't realize that the more they try to hold on, the more she's going to break free, and that's kind of where Candles comes back into the conversation. He is very forgiving and understanding, and I just think that shows how much traits like that are important.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it. Anything else there? Anything else that you really loved that you want to touch on?
God, what do I not love about this movie? This is one of the best movies of the decade so far. Like,
Yeah,
it's so inventive.
it's
It's
so
utter eye candy. Emma Stone, man, what a gifted comedian. She's always been funny, but even though she's literally won an Academy Award, this is her best work ever. And
absolutely.
she gets to be funny and she gets to be original.
Hmm.
It's just so good.
She gets
It's
to be
so good.
inventive. Like she
Hmm.
just gets to be like they just let her be Bella, and she just took it and ran. Um,
Yeah, you cannot have too much like of you can't be too self-conscious like as an actor in a space. Like, it can be embarrassing to try these things,
mhm,
and she is really making choices here.
mhm,
You know, she is not leaving any stone unturned. Um yeah, it's superb work from her.
yeah,
Superb work. And I love there's a great line where she needs to punch a baby. You just have to watch the movie for that whole dancing scene. I mean, it's got everything. It's got winking, it's got slapping, it's got furious jumping. It's just fantastic.
it's so good. The dance scene is one of my favorites. Just again, the physicality, like watching how like aggressive their dancing was just so fun. Like I was smiling ear to ear the whole time. It was just so much fun.
No inhibitions. It's like
No.
everyone is drunk the whole movie in the best way.
Yep. And you just want to be drunk with them. Like it's just so fun.
I think one thing I want to touch on, a lot of people have a criticism of sort of the final act of the movie.
Mm,
So spoilers for anyone that doesn't want to know, but after she's sort of gone on her wild oats sowing journey, she gets a letter from God, who's essentially her father, that he's ill. She decides she's going to go back and see him. And when that happens, her body's like past life's husband, you know, her mom's husband, comes back, and you know, he seeks that ownership over that body, even though Bella is technically a new person.
mhm.
And Bella is so curious, and she's been on such a journey, and you can see that she knows this guy is trouble, but she needs to know what was in that past. She has to uncover that. So I have to disagree with people that don't like that last bit and think it messes up the pacing. I think it's like the last like thing the movie really needed to be great.
Yeah.
It made everything feel, I don't know, I just feel like that made it a full picture. I feel like it would not have been a complete portrait without going into that last ugly element. And how that concludes is fucking hilarious
I
too.
know. It's so good. I just I it made it feel finished. It was that last step to her independence and like her
Yes, that's it.
individuality and understanding who she is. She needed that closure of who she was or who her mom was, however you want to put that. She had to have that
Hmm.
closure and she had to understand what pushed this person to throw herself off a bridge. She needed to know. And so she agreed to go with it from an academic standpoint. Like she wanted to understand it, and then it led to her realizing this is not the life I want. This is not who I want to be. I'm leaving, and you can't stop me. And when he tries, she kills him. So I felt like that was a perfect like final ending to that, and it really kind of gave a full picture of who she was as a person. And I feel like it was really key to finalizing that for her.
Yeah. Any dislikes?
Um, again, this is one that I really, really struggle with to find any dislikes in. Um, one of my concerns, I guess I'll phrase it as a concern, and this was just more so for like other people watching it, because we talked a little bit about modern audiences last time. This is very much like looking at a painting, like especially those transition scenes where we're moving into the next act. Like it is very
Oh, yes, the title cards are
yes,
amazing.
and
I forgot about those.
it feels very like art house almost. And I
Hmm.
was I was worried that really wouldn't, the style of this wouldn't translate to a lot of audiences, and I was really worried that people weren't going to appreciate it for this massive work that it is. But
People, I think, can really struggle with surreal and absurd movies. I don't know why we want movies to always be naturalistic and realistic
which
when we can have this type of fun.
don't get me wrong, surrealism has never been my wheelhouse. Like that's never really been my cup of tea. But this was just so otherworldly, and it felt like here, but it didn't. Like you said, it was very like steampunk, kind of like otherworldly, just very borderline ethereal, but you're in your own world. It was just
Hmm.
and I loved it, but I was really worried that wouldn't translate for a lot of audiences. But I'm glad that I haven't really heard
Yeah,
any concerns like that.
there are some things I think a lot of people, we talked about sex scene
Mm-hmm.
discourse in modern film going.
Yeah.
Um, this movie has a lot of sex scenes, but
Mm-hmm.
they are so good. I don't like they say so much about who these people are, not just Bella, but
Mm-hmm.
the people she's engaging with,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's such a human element.
Yeah.
It's really hard to I like what would this movie be without the scenes in the brothel or the scenes between Mark. I mean, that's really her whole journey. Well, no, okay, no, it's not her whole journey, but it's a huge part of her journey that she's allowed to just allowed the space to explore. So if you are sensitive to things like that, proceed with caution, but still watch it.
Mm-hmm. I
Please
think
watch it. Oh my goodness.
I think that if you can't look at it beyond a sex scene, and see it for how much liberation she experiences through that, I think you're missing the whole point. Like so much of this is her learning, her becoming who she is. And if you can only see it as a sex scene on the surface of it, then you are missing the whole point of what she's going through and why she's doing this. And I really hope that people are able to get past that. I know that sex scenes are tough for some people, but I really hope that people can get past that and really see the character development that comes out of it.
And I think where some of the concern can come from things like this is they don't want the actress to be exploited.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in this case, I do not think that the actress who also executive produced the movie and who has worked with this director like before and who has been developing this project with him for several years, I think she's okay with it, and I think she does amazing work in those scenes.
Mm-hmm. No,
That's just my 2 cents.
I completely agree. I thought that it was, honestly, I thought that it was kind of integral to the progression of the film. So I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, the movie, it's just brave, it's bold, it's unfucking forgettable.
And that is why it's up for 11 nominations.
11, a crap
11.
load. I think the only thing with more is Oppenheimer.
Yeah. But I am glad to see those two neck and neck, honestly.
Yeah,
I love them both so
two
much
standouts.
for different reasons. So let's see. We have supporting actor for Mark Ruffalo.
He's great, but
And I love him. I loved him in this role. I have no notes for him. I still think Robert Downey Jr. is going to take it. But I'm
yeah,
happy to
more
see
comedy
that.
for Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
Be funny more, Mark Ruffalo. You're so good in this. You're so good in this. Be creepy. He's so good at being a creep.
In the nicest way possible. Mark, if you're
Yeah, he needs to do it more.
if you're listening, we love you and we don't actually
We
think
know
you're
you're
a creep.
listening.
um
I think you're a creep for sure. I love it.
You can creep on me, it's fine. And then we have Emma Stone, of course, up for actress, and I hope she takes that.
This is really the only race I think of the major acting awards, because her and Lily Gladstone are neck and neck.
And I know.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm okay. This is gonna come back to bite me, but I'm gonna say right now I'm leaning toward Emma Stone.
Yeah,
We're gonna see though.
I am too. Although, again, I wouldn't be unhappy to see either of them take it. Like, again, just great nominations, and come on.
It needs to be said, if she wins for this, that will be 2 Oscars for her, where she's not in a biopic, she's not doing any. It's not like super baity things. Like, you read about La La Land and this on paper, and they do not seem like it doesn't seem like it's going to bring her that type of
Mm-mm.
reception and accolades. So I'm just good for her.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
I mean, for 2 roles that you wouldn't really pick out as like Oscar bait, like the way she handles that speaks so much to her talent, her capabilities, and like the kind of life that she can bring into those roles when they wouldn't normally, become something like
I
that.
just gotta say, I was rewatching The House Bunny the other day,
I
and
love that movie.
she is just one of the best comic actresses of her generation, if not the best. It just has to be said.
I love her. I just, again, she's one of my favorites. She's just great. But yeah, and then we have cinematography, costume design, which, I think it has a decent shot at. I would like to see Barbie take that, but I think it has a pretty decent. Those costumes are creative as hell.
Yeah, I think if I had to say anything, like, I almost lean toward Poor Things in the costumes, just because they created all these new original pieces. Um, Whereas Barbie is sort of recreating existing pieces. I don't know if that will
And that's why I
weigh on
like it.
anyone's
So
decision making. Yeah,
it's interesting though, kind of seeing that different perspective, because that's why I like the costuming in Barbie, is because it's so accurate to what
accurate.
Mattel has come out with, so
Yeah.
but
2 great choices.
I did love the costume design in Poor Things. I loved how inventive it was. The huge sleeves, like the
Yeah.
ruffles, like it was so extravagant.
Long trailing dresses.
Yes. And you just
There's like interesting underwear at times.
yeah.
There's a character with like 2 like tattoo sleeves that you wouldn't expect to have them, and all of her costumes really showcase that. I love
Yeah.
that.
I loved the costumes. I thought they did great with that. Um let's see. We're also up for director, editing, makeup and hair, original score, best picture, which I'm happy to see it nominated. I don't think it's going to take it, but I'm really happy to see it in that category.
Yeah, this is sort of like a dark, weird, macabre movie, and I can't believe that it like is such a heavy Oscar player, just because it's like it can be really off-putting at times.
Yeah. And
But
but again, like that's where my concern was, in like it not translating to all audiences, or even a majority of them. But to see it this stacked in nominations makes me so happy, because I feel like people actually are appreciating it for what it is, because it is really a masterpiece. Like they did so well with it. So I was really happy to see it nominated for that category. I don't think that it's going to take it, but I am happy to see it there.
I'm not okay. Love Oppenheimer, but I personally would rather see Poor Things as the best picture
I
out
w-
of those 2.
I would too, for the inventiveness, the creativity of it, like just how out of the box they took it. I would love to see it take Best Picture. I just don't realistically think it's going to.
Oh, no chance. No chance. Don't bet on it.
Yeah. And then we have production design, which we talked a little bit about with Barbie. Again, these sets,
hmm
amazing. They just make it feel so dreamlike to be on planet Earth. And it's so steampunk, and it's so like living in a painting. I loved the production design with this. So
Yeah, it takes you on a journey for sure.
yeah. And
The boat is crazy. I don't know how they filmed the ocean, and that, like, is that some sort of like LED screen? I don't know what they're doing. It's so cool.
they did, it was beautiful. And between that and Barbie, I don't know which one will take it. Again, I would love to see Poor Things, because it was so creative. But realistically, I actually don't know. I feel like this one's very up in the air.
Yeah. The fact that we have two sort of all-timer nominees going head to head, and they're going head to head in a lot of categories. Or actually, you know what? Barbie didn't get nominated for makeup and hair, did it?
I think it did.
You know what?
I think it did.
Oh,
Let
maybe.
me look. I
But
have
either way,
notes.
I think please do because I don't want to. We could be wrong. We could always be wrong. We're not that smart. I think if I had to
Oh
split
no,
that,
it was Oppenheimer. I think.
okay, they did good old people makeup at the end of that. That's pretty good. But no, I think there's so much good makeup and hair in this. I love Emma Stone. Her hair grows really fast in this movie. She's got this like long black train of hair that is just so characteristic. She's got crazy Cara Delevingne eyebrows. Um, but I think if they're gonna win for anything, it's gonna be the prosthetics on Willem Dafoe because he's still recognizably Willem Dafoe, but he's so alien and he's still able to act with all that makeup on. Uh,
I
as long as Maestro loses, I'm happy. If Maestro wins, send your condolences, please.
we riot. What else do we have for this?
A screenplay is
adapted
nominated.
screenplay.
Yep. That should win.
I want it. Want it. I thought, yeah, no, again, great script. I loved the evolution of her dialogue throughout the movie. Chocked full of great lines, just to the brim. Great lines. I hope so.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that everything for that one?
I think so. You know what we have not done for either yet, though? Give our rating.
Oh, okay. That's so true. Okay. I mean, we've really talked these movies up. Okay, so I guess first, Bryn, what is your rating for The Holdovers?
I gave The Holdovers a solid 4 or 4.5 stars. I just loved it, and I really couldn't pick out much wrong with it. Not my favorite, but it was great start to end. I couldn't pick out anything I didn't like about it. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I gave it 4 originally, and just the more I've watched it, the more I've liked it, and I can honestly see that just increasing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in my top 10 of the year. Yeah. It's just a fabulous time.
Yeah, I agree. And that was it for me too. Like initially after watching it, I was like, yeah, I'd give that a solid 4 stars. And as I've been thinking about it, I'm like, that doesn't feel enough. That doesn't feel high enough.
Yeah. So. All right. And now with great suspense, what's your rating for the Holdovers again? Poor Things.
I mean,
what's your rating for Poor Things?
We can talk about the Holdovers again. It's fine. But
I got time.
I kind of had a you moment with Barbie and Oppenheimer. I also gave Poor Things a 4.5. Again, wasn't my absolute favorite, but it was definitely up there. I loved it. I didn't really have anything that was glaring that I could pick out that was wrong with it. So I had to go with a 4.5 for that one too.
You know, I think there's one actor in Poor Things that is not up to par with the rest of them. I think their line deliveries are a little not of a piece with the way everyone is, but that is a pretty small thing to overlook for me. I gave Poor Things a 5 out of 5.
Nice.
You know, not a perfect movie, not a always pleasant film, but it's certainly a great film. Certainly great.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. And I love that we're talking about two films that are very different and give you very different feelings. So I feel like this was a really good discussion to have around both of them and kind of the two poles you can have. And do you have any kind of closing notes there?
Please, if you have not watched these movies, seek them out. Like we said, Holdovers is currently available to buy on DVD and Blu-ray and to stream on Peacock. Poor Things is actually still in theaters in a lot of places. This is a movie that has had a lot of word of mouth and a lot of legs in the theaters. So if it is showing near you, you really should consider seeing this on a big screen. It is worth your time and your money. And it will be out on DVD and Blu-ray 2 days after the Oscars on March 10th.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, you have just the feel-good Christmas holiday movie of the year, just teamed up with this kind of darker, more uncomfortable art piece. And honestly, still two of the greatest movies of the year. And I was so pleased with both of them. Couldn't ask for more. You have to go see them somewhere. Find it. You gotta. Really worth it. Honestly, Poor Things is even better just watching it on the big screen because you really get to take in all of that detail. It's wonderful. So find them to watch. Get it done before the Oscars. You'll understand what we were talking about and why we're raving about these so much.
And tell us what you think in the comments and our email.
Yeah, of which we have all of those up and running, so you can follow us most places at picshowpod. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, and then our email is also that's picshowpod,
in the
right?
description.
Yeah, it's there. Find it, leave comments, do the
links
things.
And whatnot. Questions, comments, send them in. Concerns, keep them to yourself.
You won't hear any of that. Anyway, thank you so
Bryn,
much.
This was really fun.
It really was. And just thank you to all the listeners, all the viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really this is something that we've both been passionate about for our whole lives. So this just is super meaningful to be able to kind of bring out to the world. And I think that's it for me.
We appreciate every single one of you.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to listen to this yapping.
But you do.
But we're happy to yap.
We're yappers. That's why we're here. Anyway, tune in next time. We're just going to talk about some great stuff as we always do. And watch a good movie and tell a friend about it. Bye, guys.
Bye.